Hello YouTubers, and it's another late night repair at the pub. Tonight I'm going to repair that. A crack has developed in the flooring. It's commercial grade plastic type linoleum, but it still would develop a crack and disintegrate depending on where it's laid and the condition of the floor underneath, which I'm curious to see when I lift this thing up. To fix it, I'm going to use that little lot. Obviously some more of this original commercial material, this linoleum type stuff. To stick it down, I'm going to use CT1. This is really good stuff. I've used things like hard as nails and Gorilla Grip. It doesn't do the trick. This stuff does do the trick. How do I know? Well, I've used it on this repair. This is a bit blurred. There you go. That developed a few cracks about 2-3 years ago, and it's in a high traffic area, as you can tell. And I repaired it with Gorilla Grip and hard as nails, and it kept coming up. Used CT1 and it hasn't budged. And this is a high traffic area and it's subject to flooding. Look, there's the sink, hand basin, dishwasher, sinks, and this occasionally will leak, as you know from previous videos, and water will collect here. And with the CT1, it's impervious to water going through it. It just doesn't go through the cracks at all. Very good stuff. I've also used it here as a small repair, but in a high traffic area, as you can tell. That hasn't come up. So tonight, using that lot to fix that. Let's get started. To get a good match, I'll take the material that I'm going to put down, the fresh material, place it against the floor, and I'll draw around the edge. And then where the mark is where I'm going to cut. I hope this goes well because I've got no more material, so this needs to be an exact fit. Let's see how it goes. Well, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is the hole I cut in the original lino to accommodate this replacement piece of material has gone very well. It's a very good fit. Yeah, pleased with that. The bad news is that the original wood under the plastic lino has got damp and rotted away. And now what I think's happened is quite obvious. The plastic lino, the original stuff, when it was up against the edge of the door frame like that, here, all along, came away from the door frame. So every night when they're wiping the floor down with mops and water and stuff, water would creep under the lino, collect on the wood and rot it. So this job is going to become a two-parter. The first part I've done. I've got the material cut to shape. Now I've got to wait and come back to this when the wood's dried out. Or more accurately, I'm going to take some of this rotten stuff away and whatever's left behind, let that dry out. So the remainder of the job tonight is to clean this up and cover it with some cardboard and take the cardboard down and wait for it to dry. And the second part is to come back to this in a couple of days and finish the job off. The good news is what I've done so far, cutting that to shape, is the hardest bit. That's the accurate piece of work. The next bit, putting it in place, well, that's easy. So I'm over halfway there. Well, when I said I was over halfway, boy was I ever wrong. Look at that. Yeah, all the wood here, there'd be joists along here, all were rotten. So this is a bigger problem than I originally thought it would be. There's a history to this flooring. The blue plastic lino was laid on top of a rotten floor. This was done before my time, before I was involved with the pub, and I've been told that the flooring underneath wasn't right. It was damp, and well, the whole kitchen, the structure was is an extension and was built, we think, very shoddily, and the flooring was exposed when the blue plastic lino went down the first time years ago, and it was seen to be flawed, you know, damp, not right. I found evidence the flooring wasn't right myself a few years ago when I cut a square here and replaced it with some fresh plasticized lino. When it was exposed and there was an original square hole there, the flooring underneath was also damp, and what I did was I left it exposed. I mean, I put some some cardboard on top, taped it in place and left it for a few days, came back and it had dried out. So I'm hoping that because this blue plastic flooring is airtight, that the wooden damp floor underneath is simply damp and hasn't had a chance to dry out. What I'm going to do is cover that with cardboard, tidy it all up, cover it with cardboard, and come back to this in a few days. Now, if it hasn't rained outside and this has dried out, that should prove that there's no leaking pipes or anything like that. Not proof, but it's, you know, strong evidence. If I come back to it in a few days and it's still damp, it means there's fresh water getting in there and something majorly wrong here. Which is unusual because I've looked around and there's no pipes going this way. There's nothing to suggest there's some sort of internal leaking pipe. So I'm going to check it once in a few days after some dry weather. I'm also going to check it again after that, after a heavy downpour, and if it's wet then, it would suggest to me that water is creeping in from the garden, from outside, which is highly possible because, like I say, this is an extension, was built by people who did it shoddily. I mean, they might not put some sort of damp course in, so there might be just water coming in from outside, going on the floor, and manifesting itself. When I waited for that one to dry, I didn't wait for a downpour to check it. I'm doing that with this. So, modified game plan. Cover it and let it dry out for a few days. Come back to this and check it. If it's wet still, there's a possibility there's some sort of internal leak. If it's dry, that's good, but I'm not going to stop there. I'll recover it and come back to it again after some rain. If it's wet, it will suggest to me that there's something not right with the building. If it's still dry after a bout of rain and a bout of dry weather, I'm going to fix it. And I might do an exploratory repair here. I might take up a square and see how bad that is as well. But I'll tackle this first. So, modified game plan. Tonight, cover it, come back to this in a few days and check it once after some dry weather and again after some rain. Okay, that thing's cleaned up a little bit. I just want a close-up of this so I can use it as reference when I come back to this in a couple of days to see how it's dried out. Okay, let's get that covered. And that's as far as I can go tonight. Everything's been cleaned up and the shelves have been put back, things wired up. The staff will put the food back on the shelves tomorrow. So it's covered, and I'll come back to this in a few days and see if it's dried out or not. So for tonight, job done.